Look, I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you quit playing. Won't you take a chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you, no doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a dope self-esteem. You find it in all I know, and that's for real. You get to shaking that ass on the floor, and I see what's real. No disrespect, I just tell it like it is. Do you ever want some kids? What your ultimate goals? Maybe I can help with those. The mo was broke when he made you a blessing. You looking like a whole buffet, and I need some seconds. You say you had promiscuous ways, that was back in the day. I'll be alive, I say I did it, that shit was a phase. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you quit playing. Won't you take the chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Lady, you so far ahead of these others, just like a ship on the horizon. Picking up on your vibe, signal stronger than Verizon. All the thoughts that I've been contemplating, ain't no time for faking or debating. You the one, ain't no mistaking. Look, I see you swag different. Always carry yourself like you ready, you know the mission. I had to know you, I'm tempted. I can see why you timid. Hold up now, baby, listen. Just take that dance with me, I can show you that there's a difference. I'm locked in. I throw away my playaways because you pop in. A shooter always shoot a shot. With you by my side, I guarantee we'll reach the top. I put that on God and then I'll give you all that I got. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type of baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you quit playing. Won't you take that chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me.
Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks.
Bam! What up, everybody? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Behind Them Sticks with your boy Ham Solo 05 Gaming. And today, I am here with special guest. He's usually every week he's on the Planet Xbox podcast, but he also has some phenomenal tech tips, and he is one person I would advise you to ask if you thinking about a TV or if you just have any kind of technical questions. I mean, he knows his shit. Definitely knows a lot more than I do when it comes to that kind of shit. But anyways, let me go on ahead and introduce him. DopeIsJay. What up, brother? How you doing this evening? What's been going on with you?
I'm doing great. For anybody who is not familiar, I'm DopeIsJay. You guys can follow me on Twitter at DopeIsJay. Also my YouTube channel. Big gamer, big into tech. So for context, I'm an IT major. I also work in the IT field, so that's sort of my background right there.
So now y'all see what I'm saying. He gonna know more than me off top. I just can't compete.
Yeah, it's just a passion of mine. It really is. It's just a passion of mine. I really do enjoy learning about tech, working with it every single day. Just even in my personal life, like the center of a lot of what I do is surrounding around tech. And how we can use technology to further advance gaming and just other parts of your life as well. So it's just something I'm like really into.
Absolutely. Is it just like revolving around gaming or just like tech in general, like as a whole?
Like, tech in general,
what are some specific things that you really hone in on?
Yeah, so my major is in information technology, but a concentration in cybersecurity. I'll also study a lot of cloud technologies as well. So how can we integrate cybersecurity with the cloud as well? So that's more along the realm of where I'm at right now. Um, but I do study on the side a lot of the technical aspects of how people use tech to drive gaming and to push that forward as well.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Smart brother we got here on the panel today. But anyways, let's go on ahead and let everybody know where they can find you. So like gaming wise, also like social media wise. So like, I mean, I know you got a channel. I know you've been like working and have some stuff laid out that you want to put forward in the near future, but let people know where they can actually go to see that.
Yeah, you guys can go on my YouTube channel, DopeIsJay. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at DopeIsJay as well. Very active on there. We're gonna start getting more active on the channel. I've just been very busy with a lot of different things, but I do have a couple different videos planned. I have a laptop video, like a first impression slash review video coming out for that. I'm also doing a CPU upgrade on my PC as well. So we're gonna do some benchmarks, show you the performance gains I'm gonna get from my old processor to my new processor, and then just your typical gaming videos. So impressions on games like Modern Warfare 2 that's coming out, Pokemon, stuff like that. So we do have a lot of content planned in the near future. Um, it does take time, but we're gonna get there.
Now you seem like we talked just a little bit ago before the show, and actually I had asked you a few questions earlier today just to kind of get the layout on some of this stuff. But you seem to be kind of into Pokemon. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of the games I've been playing since my early childhood. Much more frequently than a lot of other games, even though recently I haven't put too much time into it because some of the more recent games are like super easy, honestly. They're not bad, but they're easier compared to the older games. But yeah, Pokemon is something I'm very excited for. I know a lot of people that play Pokemon in my personal life. Me and my brother grew up playing Pokemon, so typically what we would do, you'll have like Fire Red, Leaf Green. We would buy like the double pack of the game and just choose whichever one we want to play. And then we'll just go back and forth in terms of battling, trading, stuff like that. So growing up with him, that's always been the game that we would play together. And it just spawned from there, meeting a lot of other friends who play Pokemon as well.
Right. And you said Pokemon Yellow was the first one
Yeah,
that you really
Pokemon
got
Yellow was
into.
the first one that I got into. And then I played Crystal, and then they went from there. And just um every single game that's come out, just been playing those. That's it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So what are you actually playing as of recently? Like what are the kind of games that you've been actually digging into? Have you had time to game? What's been going
Yeah,
on?
every once in a while, like, because me, I'm also big into multiplayer games as well. So some of my daily drivers are like Apex Legends, Call of Duty, stuff like that. In regards to single player games, occasionally I'll go back into Doom. Doom is one of my favorite franchises, so I'll play some Doom Eternal here and there. Just going in there, going ham, doing some crazy stuff. But what I'm looking forward to is the most recent the up and coming Pokemon game coming out. So we're looking forward to that. Modern Warfare 2 when that drops, God of War when that drops. And then Need for Speed. Need for Speed Unbound just had a new trailer, so that was pretty
Today.
hype. Yeah, that was pretty
That
cool.
was
I like that.
today. Yeah. So I want to get your thoughts on that real quick before we go on further into the questions. Now, like they're doing like some sort of like cell shade, right? Like for the characters
Yeah.
in the story, but like the cars and everything look realistic as hell.
hmm
Really weird kind of take on it.
Yeah,
Do
it's weird,
you?
like this like animation slash realism aspect that they're giving to the game now.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird, but
I like it.
but it's pretty dope. But it's
Yes.
dope, yeah, because it's kind of a refreshing take that nobody else is really taking advantage of or doing and whatnot. So it's nice to see something like that. But I want to know, like, do you think this game is going to be more similar to like the last few kind of Need for Speeds, or do you think they're going to go back into like Underground and like that old school stuff that Riders on the Storm? Like we used to
Yeah.
listen to that joint every time and do drag races and shit way back in the day. So do you think they're going to go that direction, or do you think it's going to be kind of more traditional?
I think they're gonna go more in the direction of like the underground,
That'd be
most one in
fire.
2005, like street, like hardcore street racer, a lot of tuners. Obviously gonna have your muscles in there as well, but having that street racer style of a game, because that's something that's been, I think Heat tried to bring it back there a little bit as well. Um, but there was some design elements of that game that was sort of weird in terms of the way they handled unlocking different attachments and stuff for your car to spec it out. It was kind of weird inside that game, but I think with this one, they're gonna bring it back to its roots for sure. I mean, that's what Need for Speed fans have been wanting for a while, and some games have been able to do it, and some games haven't. But hopefully, with this one, I really believe they're going back to the underground, the most wanted like style of game. Even when you look at older racing games like Midnight Club, those games were very popular as well.
Now, do you think this game is gonna get delayed? Because one thing I noticed, and one thing that makes me nervous when I see these kind of things, is when they announce a release date to be within this year, and knowing that there's not too many months left in the year, right?
Mhm.
We seen like pretty much like no gameplay.
Yeah, it was not too much gameplay shown, but I think that they're actually going to drop it. They said December 2nd is the release date, something
Hmm.
that they've been working on for a while, and it's next gen only. So, in regards to the design of the game and having to optimize it, I think it's going to be relatively simple for them to just say, hey, we've been working on this for a while. We're going to drop it at this date. I wouldn't be surprised if the game gets delayed, though, because that's been the trend this generation, is having a lot of games being delayed. So, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of gotta agree that I think it might be coming out because it's just like to to come this late in the game and to announce a date at this point. We're in October, and you're saying,
Yeah.
"Yo, we're coming out in less than 2 months." Like you must be pretty fucking confident.
hmm
You know what
Especially
I'm
since
saying?
this is the first time that they're actually revealing the game as well. Like, there was rumors about them having this game in development for a couple months now, but this is the first time they revealed it, and they're like, "Hey, it's coming out this year." So it has me thinking they've been cooking this up for a while, honestly. And you have to
Absolutely.
remember, Need for Speed games have a relatively quick turnaround as well. They pump those games out quick.
Okay. Well, we must move on to the next couple of questions because this ain't a podcast all about Need for Speed. It's all about you and who you are and what kind of games that you got into growing up. But we were talking a little bit, and you had sent me, like I said, the answer to some of my questions, and you told me that you first started out like the first console or household console, not portable or whatnot, that you
Yeah.
had was the PS1. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's one of the, because I'm 25, so that's also more context for people. I'm 25 years old, so I know a lot of other gamers who are older than me who they've been gaming for longer than I've been alive.
Hmm.
That's quite the milestone. But for me, PS1 is the earliest system I can remember playing at that younger age, like around like 4 or 5 years old, where I'm like, oh, like this is what video games are. I played games like Tekken 4, Mortal Kombat 4. What else? There was like this game called 101 Dalmatians on the PS1 that was cool.
Uh-huh.
Spider-Man PlayStation 1. That game was a classic. It was crazy because I had lost my memory card for the PlayStation 1. So
Oh,
yeah,
and you know how detrimental that is.
that is, yeah. So for people who don't know, especially for younger people, you had memory cards. You have to save your game to the memory card yourself. If you lost your memory card, you either had to keep your PlayStation on and beat the game on a single playthrough, or you just lose all your save files. Now it's convenient because every single piece of hardware has some sort of storage built into it, so you can save your data. Um, but yeah, I lost the memory card for that, and that was a bit of a struggle for a lot of games. But yeah, PlayStation 1 was the earliest console I can remember, and then we had Dreamcast. Played a lot of Soul Calibur and Dreamcast, Crazy Taxi.
Soul Calibur was
Yeah,
fire.
Soul Calibur 1.
Was it? Did you ever? What was that? Soul Blade as well. Did you ever get down
I'm
on
not
that game?
familiar. I'm not familiar with Soul Blade. I probably played it, but I just don't remember what it is.
It has a lot of the same. I want to say that it has a lot of the same characters that Soul Calibur has, like Voldo, right? Voldo's in Soul Calibur, correct? The crazy looking mummy dude that like had like the like Wolverine type
Oh yeah,
like things, and he like looked like a zombie when he was fighting you. That motherfucker was something else, and I hated
Mhm.
that bitch. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. Soul Calibur was fired. Continue though.
Yeah, so I played a lot of those games. And then eventually I got a Game Boy. And then I remember being in elementary school and my friend lended me Pokemon Yellow, and that's what got me into being a huge fan of Pokemon and just delving into RPGs like that. And yeah, just continue from there. You know, PS2, PS3, Xbox, and stuff like that. I didn't play Xbox until 360, honestly, because PS2 was just so popular, and PS2 had so many massive titles on there. Honestly, obviously games like GTA. I played the Mortal Kombat on there as well. So Deadly Alliance when that dropped on PS2, Deception, Shaolin Monks. I still play to this very day. I emulate the game on my PC, hop on that, and just play. That game is so fun. What else? I played this old game called Fugitive Hunter. I'm not sure if anybody remembers that game. That game, now if you look at it, it's bad, but back then that game was fire. Very old first person shooter on there.
I mean, let's be real. A lot of PlayStation 1 games, they didn't age well.
Yeah, there were a lot of games that didn't age well.
Even some of
Oh
the
yeah,
PlayStation
I
2.
forget about Crash. I love Crash, man.
Yeah,
Crash
Crash was
Bandicoot was one of my
fantastic.
favorite games. Yeah. And I remember because I always tell people like you going from gen to gen is amazing because you get to see a huge leap in design and graphics. And going from Crash Bandicoot 3, what was it, A Warp in Time, to Wrath of Cortex on PS2, I was like, wow, like this is a pretty big leap going with like the level design was much different. Obviously, the animations were much more refined as well, going from a PS1 version to Crash to a PS2 version to Crash.
Mhm.
Um, and that was just very, very, very exciting. Obviously, you see Mortal Kombat as well, going from MK4 to Deadly Alliance and Deception on PS2 was a pretty good jump as well in terms of design and a lot of the animations they were able to do with the fatalities, polygon counts for character models. So that's what I like to see. It's just that advancement. Recently, we're seeing a lot more cross-gen games, but I'm just ready for the point where they say, "Hey, we're cutting off Xbox One and PS4, and we're doing nothing but next-gen games."
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fantastic. I mean, I feel like an asshole saying that because it's like, fuck the last generation. But I mean, let's be real. Like, we want full, like, we want the developers to take full advantage of the hardware that's out now and not have to worry about scaling it down or, keeping it cool for the last generation. Like, in my opinion, it's like, fuck the last generation and whatnot.
You just don't want any compromises.
Thank you. Absolutely. You're correct. I don't want none of that shit. I want as much quality as you can fit on that fucking disc or whatnot. Like,
Yeah, I want them to program their games to the metal to take advantage of all the capabilities that these systems have. And these systems are very capable. And Mark Cerny, he talked a lot about that on his Road to PS5 conference and the things you can do with the SSD, the additional CPU performance you have inside there with the Zen 2 cores. I'm like, there's a lot you can do, but we haven't had that title. It's like we're pushing the PS5 or the Series X to its very limits, and this is what you can do with this hardware. Eventually, we're gonna get there, but it's gonna take a while.
do you think God of War will be a testament to what the PS5 can do? Because obviously, they're gonna configure the games differently, right?
Yeah.
Certain things are gonna be much more shiny or polished and popping on the PS5 than it's gonna be on the PS4. Or do you think that having just by having a PS4 version makes it kind of not as good as it could be?
it's kind of hard because I don't think that game is going to be the testament for PS5, right? Because when they started developing that game, they when they talked about God of War 2018, right? They said that they had a lot from God of War 2018 that carried over into Ragnarok because it would have been too much for that game alone. That's why we have this sequel right now on the scale that's going to be. But in some aspects, maybe. But I don't think from the core design of the game, it's going to be like, hey, this is that game that, defined what the PS5 generation was about. It can't.
Okay. This might be a goofy ass question, but I'm going to ask it because sometimes I like asking stupid questions. But this question is, do you think God of War will hands down look better than Horizon Forbidden West?
That's not a stupid question. That's not. It's not.
It's not? Okay.
No, no, it's not. I think it's actually a great question because you can debate which one's gonna look better based off of what we've seen from Horizon Forbidden West and what they did with the Decima engine over Zero Dawn. That's a massive improvement. I like a lot of
Yeah.
what they did in terms of character models, animations. Um, they always had it like vegetation inside Zero Dawn was great, and they improved upon that with Forbidden West. I was like, wow, like look at the way that they designed the trees, the grass, everything like that.
Everything's kind of like everything has life. It feels
Yeah,
like.
everything has life to it. Like the world is much more livelier inside this game than it was in the previous version. I see some of the same elements with Ragnarok as well. One of the biggest things that people noticed, and even that Guerrilla Games talked about was water, right? Water looked very muddy inside the first game. Inside this game, depending on where you're at, it's much more clear. It's much more lifelike and realistic inside the game than what it was before. And I see some of those same elements with Ragnarok as well, where certain aspects of the environment is much more improved. Obviously, because you're on the PS5, you can run the game at a higher resolution. Things are going to be much more clear, and you can have higher detailed assets. But I want to see more gameplay of the game so I can like get more of a grasp of what game's going to look better side by side. Honestly, but it's not a bad question. In my opinion, I think Horizon did a lot. It really did a lot.
So you think that it's gonna look it's gonna be harder than anticipated to judge which one looks better.
Yeah. Until
Okay.
until we see more from Ragnarok, then that's when we can make the determination of what looks better objectively. But you know how gamers are. They're gonna have their own interpretation of what game looks better to them based off of what they value.
Right. Like to me so far, although I really thought Horizon was like a great looking game. It wasn't like my most favorite, most fun game that I played this year, but it was like probably the best looking game that I
Yeah,
played
definitely is a
this year.
pretty looking game. Definitely a pretty looking game, honestly.
But I still have trouble balancing because these are two totally different works of art. Which looked
Mhm.
better between like Ratchet and Clank and Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, obviously Horizon's going for the lifelike, where
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank's going for the cartoony kind of look. But something about Insomniac, something about them, they nailed that shit. Like
They're up there. They're definitely up there in terms of visuals for sure.
yeah, I mean, even in Spider-Man Miles Morales, that shit was like right like remember he had his hand out and
Yeah.
the lightning was going. Oh man, that shit looked amazing.
They're
So
definitely underrated in the industry in terms of what they're capable of doing with their games. Not only has the output been there, but a lot of the visual effects that you see with the game, the fluidity of the game as well. When you play it on PS5, it's one of the better looking performance modes I've seen and played on the PS5. Obviously, you can run the game at the native 4K at 30 and have the highest detail you can possibly have. But even in the performance mode, it still looks amazing and it runs great as well.
gotcha. All right, so now I'm gonna kind of dial it back because we're starting to get a little too ahead of ourselves with the newer stuff. I still want to dive a little
Mhm.
bit into the older stuff of your history and whatnot.
Yeah,
So you said you got into like Xbox starting in like the 360 generation.
yeah.
What were some headlining games for you in particular during that
Oh,
generation?
easily. So when I got into the Xbox 360, the main games I played was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2,
Whoa.
Call of Duty 4, Halo 3. Um, those were my main drivers for a while on that system. And then obviously, I got into Gears of War. That was another amazing franchise I got into as well on the 360. Um, and it just grew from there. Other titles I played a lot of Skate back then, so Skate 2. So we're talking like from 2008 to 2010, 2011. Now obviously newer titles came out. You had Halo Reach come out, you had Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, stuff like that. Gears of War 3, those games came out. The biggest thing that drew me to that platform in particular was the social aspect of that platform, right? Xbox Live during that time introduced a lot of connectivity to gamers across the world. And that's something that the PS3 was lacking during that time was their online service versus Xbox Live. And when I discuss that with people now, people tend to underrate or have revisionist history as to how impactful Xbox Live was during that period of time,
Mm.
especially for that generation, which is what kept a lot of people on 360 over PS3.
People really, I mean, we even got like not me and you, but I was on the panel on the Planet Xbox podcast, and people like it seemed like some were kind of discounting the credibility that 360 had during that time.
Yeah, it was
Not
dominant.
I mean, we all agreed that it had its great moments, but like I remember Smooth being very adamant that Xbox was like leading the way for a hot minute in
It
the
was.
360 PS3
It,
generation.
it was for a while. The reason why PS3 was able to catch up was because they redesigned it to the slim version. They dropped the price significantly to $299, and they start to have more quality games come out. And the games were starting to run a bit better on the PS3 um compared to what it was before because of how hard it was to program for that system. It was a very divergent architecture from what developers were used to with x86. Um they had a split RAM pool. I mean, you can watch any interview from like Insomniac or any other devs from that time, and they would tell you, hey, programming on the PS3 was very, very difficult, which is why the quality of the games were suffering, particularly for third party titles. And the best example of that is look at how Call of Duty ran on the Xbox 360 versus the PS3. It's
Right.
not comparable.
But the PS3 was supposed to be the much stronger
It
console.
had the horsepower behind it. It definitely did. So what a lot of people were doing, particularly data scientists, they were taking PS3s and clustering them for research purposes because of how powerful the cell processor was during that when that system. Um so it's a compute workhorse, but if you can't program something for it, what's the point?
You're right. I got you. Do you so did you end up getting yourself a PS3 during that
Yeah.
generation?
Mhm. A year
Well,
after I got my 360.
okay, and then what were some of the highlights for that console for you?
Literally the first game I got on my PS3 because I got the PS3 in 2009 was Infamous One.
Okay.
Infamous One was one of the earlier titles I got for that. Then I got into Uncharted 2. Amazing
Oh,
game.
there you go. Oh my
One of my
God.
one of my favorite games.
Like I'm sitting here looking at like no disrespect, but I'm sitting here looking at PlayStation like y'all remaking some stuff right now. But how about like Killzone
Yeah, yeah. You got
or
Killzone, SOCOM,
or Uncharted?
Resistance.
Like I want to see 1, 2, and 3 of Uncharted get remake. Like if you guys are remaking games, let's remake some games that really need it. Like
Yeah,
because Uncharted 2, I mean, you ask most of the fans of Uncharted, they say Uncharted 2 is the go.
yeah.
And
Definitely,
that train
definitely.
scene. that train scene and climbing up that train and then running on the car sideways and like it's all falling down and you're diving off of it as soon as it's
Yeah.
actually like that whole scene was intense.
Naughty
And you
Dog
had
did their thing with
you
that
had to
game.
do it twice. You had to do that
Yeah.
scene twice.
Yeah. Naughty Dog definitely did their thing with that game. That for me, in my opinion, signaled a shift in the quality of their games and the scale of their games. Because if you look at the leap from Uncharted 1 to 2, it's hard to have that kind of leap. Some sequels they can't do that. And that sequel was able to capitalize on the foundation that one had and make it even better. One has a lot of criticisms, and it's valid criticisms for the gameplay mechanics, the pace of the game, where 2 took it and said, hey, we're making the game bigger, we're making the game better. It's a better story, a better narrative. The music, the characters, the villain. I think Uncharted 2 still has the best villain out of all of them. I mean, that guy, he had on black Air Forces. He was a demon.
You
He was crazy.
talking about the asshole, right?
Yeah, Lazarevich.
Man, that dude was a dick.
That was a menace.
Cause I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody in case they haven't played that game, but that dude at the end he's something.
Yeah, he really is.
He is literally running you down, and you were just running for a minute, trying to stay alive because he'll damn near one tap you.
Yeah, especially on
But,
the hardest difficulty. That's a difficult boss to fight for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so PlayStation 3 was absolutely fire. So when you looked at both the 360 and the PS3, which one won you over for that generation?
360 easily.
Wow. Okay. So did that mean you hopped directly into the Xbox One, or did you see the PS4 and
Opposite for me. I hopped on the PS4 first.
why?
And it's because of the lead up to Xbox One wasn't the greatest.
No,
A lot
it
of what
wasn't.
they were doing, a lot of what they were doing during that time was, hey, we're bundling the Connect with the Xbox One. We're selling it at $499. Mind you, the PS4 was $399 at launch. And then a lot of the focus on the TV and other features outside of gaming, which, if you look back on a retrospect, those are things that we use every day, right? If you look at the center of your home, you can have the console as the center of your home and the hub for everything that you do. Gaming, media, watching movies, all that stuff you can do from there.
Yeah, we all got Alexas now.
Yeah,
Stuff like that. So we had
but
so that was on par, which where we were going.
yeah,
But it was too early to the party. The party started at 8. It showed up at like 5 a.m.
you can't do that. That's the biggest thing, especially for a console. Yeah, it's great to have those features in there, right? But at the same time, that shouldn't be the main focus of your system. The main focus of your system is, hey, here's how much better the Xbox One is versus the 360. Here's how your games are going to look and run on the Xbox One versus the 360, and put the focus on games. They didn't do that. And Sony did that. They capitalized on that, and they started trolling Xbox like, hey, remember they had the whole DRM scandal, and then PlayStation's like, here's how you share a game.
Yeah, that was disrespectful.
No, it was like that. And it's literally like they flipped the script and they traded places. And once you do that and you lose the confidence of your gamers, it's hard to reclaim that. And they're still trying to make up from the mistakes they made during the Xbox One to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You had a bunch of people jump ship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, half of the people talking all that noise on Twitter and stuff like that, they used to be the Xbox guys.
They used to be on 360. I'm telling you, a lot of those guys used to be on 360. They hopped to PS4 and never looked back. Me, I still bought the Xbox One eventually. But I try to have faith in Xbox coming into this generation because of the investment that they were making in terms of acquiring studios and a lot of the promises that they made in terms of pushing out content, but they haven't been consistent in regards to their output. We're still waiting for a lot of those titles that they announced back in 2020, and even now. And that's just been my biggest thing is like, how long am I gonna keep sticking up for somebody that can't stick up for themselves?
Okay. Do you look around at the industry and see that everybody else is kind of following suit with delays and whatnot and say, you'll get a pass this time, but 2023, your time is up if you ain't figured it out by then?
I
Or do
can
you
say
still give
that,
them
but
more leeway?
I can't give them the leeway because other gamers aren't going to do the same thing either. Other
Right.
gamers are like, if you like you asked me the question, what system would you recommend, right? Right now.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get into that? Like, you want to get into that question?
Yeah, go on ahead.
So you asked me what console would you recommend right now for normies? And it's the PS5. It's the PS5 right now over the Xbox off of the titles that they have on the system right now, right? So the first party, they also have third party exclusives on there. They have indie exclusives on there as well. And then they revised PlayStation Plus so that even if you didn't get a PS5 day one, you get some of those exclusives in PS Plus right away. So like someone can argue Game Pass. Yeah, you can argue Game Pass when you buy an Xbox One, the value that brings. But PlayStation Plus is offering a similar amount of value for a system, a person who's trying to buy the system right now. And in my opinion, a lot of those titles are much more compelling. We're talking about games like God of War 2018 that's in the service. You got Demon Souls that's in the service. Deathloop FF7 Remake, one of the better games I played in the past couple years. There's a lot in there. Stray's a really good indie title. So when I look at what they're offering right now in terms of the games that they already have and the games that's coming out, I would have to recommend someone the PlayStation 5 over an Xbox. Because with the Xbox, there's a bit of uncertainty in terms of when are these titles going to come. That's my opinion on it.
I got you. So even with this new announcement with Target, where they got the Series S for $250 with a controller, you would still say pay that extra $150.
Yeah,
Get you a PS5 right now.
I would say save the extra money, buy the PS5.
Oh,
I'm
snap.
looking at the long term aspect of the quality of games that you're getting, not only right now but down the line as well. You got Spider-Man you can play, you got Ratchet and Clank you can play, Last of Us, God of War, Final Fantasy. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot more as well. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying first party, third party, their subscription isn't bad. Why not?
Okay. Well, we'll continue to touch on that for in a little bit, but I want to get back to a couple other questions that have to do with like content creation and stuff like that. So earlier you had said that you have some stuff that you're working on to drop, but as of right now, your regular kind of weekly thing that you do is with Kid Smooth on Planet Xbox. I want to know how you came across Kid Smooth. Like, where did where did this relationship between the two of you come from? Like, do you guys know each other from like personal, kicking it, or like is this you guys just meet up online on Twitter, or
Yeah, I met
like
him
how,
online. I've been subbed to him for a while. So he was doing a lot of Xbox One coverage. When the One X was coming out, I watched his channel and just regularly followed up with his content. And there was one time he was having sort of like an open mic event, and at this time the old Planet Xbox, because this is the second iteration of Planet Xbox, the old iteration of it essentially disbanded. So the current iteration of Planet Xbox that you see right now, is the second iteration of it. I think we have a longer run at this right now versus the old crew. I could be wrong about that, but we've been doing this for 2 years now. Well, it's about to be, or at least going on 2 years. I don't know, but since 2020, yes, we're going on 3 years actually. So he had this open mic event
Losing track of
pulled up.
time. Dope. You losing track of
Yeah,
time.
it's crazy because it's like there's so much going on in gaming, right?
Mhm.
But we started it then. So a couple months before Series X and PS5 drops, we all get in there. We have a great discussion about Xbox during that point and what we expect from the next generation, right? Because everyone knew, hey, next generation consoles are coming out that year. So we had a lot to talk about. I pulled up, Chris pulled up, Nick Banks, and Sad Boy Blue pulled up. And after us having that great conversation, we played Call of Duty and stuff like that. He was like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of the Planet Xbox podcast? I plan on bringing it back." I was like, "Yeah, why not? I don't mind hopping on every Wednesday, talk about gaming." And then from there, I was introduced to a lot of other individuals that I met throughout the community. That I also have great discussions with as well. A lot of people that I game with. And it just spawned from there. And it exposed me to people that I was never really familiar with. And during that time, I was much more active on Twitter as well. So before that, I wasn't super active. But then after being on there and engaging with the people that I've been engaged with, you just keep going. You make connections. You meet some really nice people in the community. You agree with people, you disagree with people, but at the end of the day, we understand that it's just gaming. Some people take it too far, though. It's insane.
Like on the panel or in the
no,
chat?
no, not on the panel. Just like in the whole
You talking
fear
about
of like
in gaming. In gaming.
yeah, like in gaming, Twitter, stuff like that. Like some people go way too far, and I'm like, yeah, this
Absolutely.
is just beyond me. Because at the end of the day, it's just video games. Like this is a hobby and a passion for a lot of us that we all come together and enjoy, right? And now that it's become this social thing, some people are so affiliated to whatever particular platform or game that they take it to another level that it doesn't have to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Smooth's an excellent guy, man. I have to say, he's one of the most solid dudes I've met in the community in regards to just welcoming people with open arms and inviting
He
them
is
to his
very good
platform.
with newcomers.
Yeah,
He is very
excellent
good
with
with newcomers.
newcomers.
Like he was one of the first people I've had on this Behind Them Sticks show.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very welcoming. I was actually just doing recordings back then. I wasn't doing anything live. And he was just like with it. He was down just to be here,
Yeah.
chat, do the damn thing. And even after the show, he kicked it with me for like an hour. And we just sat back and talked. And he didn't know who I was before that. You know, and then he invited me on the show. So that's when I came on the first time when I was on camera on the show. And I was just like, man, like, this is dope.
Yeah, and whenever you want to pull up, you can pull up, bro, because like we like to have different perspectives. And he welcomes that. And he really does welcome that. And he's like I said, very solid guy. And like there's no ego, nothing like that. Other people have egos with them because they have their own podcast, their own platform, and they think that because they've been doing it for a while that they can act a certain way towards other people. But he's never been like that. Never. I've never seen him interact with somebody in such a way that's like, yo, you shouldn't do that. And to a certain extent, I'm like, some people try to come at him a certain way, but I'm like, yo, he's one of the biggest gamers in the community. One of the biggest gamers in the community. I mean, crazy gamer score. Insane gamer score. Every single year, this guy has a lot of games beaten. So he's one of the realest gamers you're ever gonna come across on any platform. Period. Honestly, huge gamer, huge gamer. I got a lot of respect for him because, as him being a primary Xbox content creator and gamer, he has a lot of credibility from the sense that he's put a lot of time into that platform and invested a lot where other people haven't. But yet you see them on podcasts with executives and stuff and getting invited to these events, but you got this guy who's been loyal to the brand for years. So there has to be a certain amount of respect shown to him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that some people find fishy, I don't find it fishy. I actually get blamed for this exact same thing. Every once in a while, like from like I've had a random pop into my chat when I've had like a PlayStation person on my podcast, and they're like, "Hold on, I thought you were big into Xbox. Why do you have these like these ponies on your show? Like, what are you doing?" And I want you to step in for Smooth right here and explain a little bit of why he will sometimes have more of a panel of people that prefer PlayStation over Xbox, yet his channel is called Planet Xbox.
It's because we don't want an echo chamber. You don't want an echo chamber.
Preach.
What happens is when you have a Twitter space, a podcast, or a small community of people who always share the same sensibilities, there's no good discussions. Everyone is just agreeing with each other for the sake of agreeing because they like a particular platform, and there's no nuance to the discussion. So you have to have a different perspective, somebody that might like a different platform that can provide you a bit more insight into that platform itself as well, because they play on that. And a lot of us on the panel own multiple consoles. Like Smooth owns a PS5. I own a PS5 and an Xbox. Old man Logan owns a PS5, Xbox, Switch. Chris is primarily a PlayStation gamer, but he owns a Switch as well. So a lot of us we play on almost everything, but we have our preferences. We're human beings. We're always going to have our preferences. You might have a particular car manufacturer that you like, restaurants that you like going to. That's just life.
It's just human nature.
But we don't want to have an echo chamber, because then you start to say a lot of ridiculous things and have a lot of ridiculous takes that doesn't make sense, because everyone's just buying into the same stuff that you're talking about or you're saying. And then there's no accountability as well.
Okay. I want to know about you specifically right here. I want you to tell me why you decided to, delve into content creation. Like, what sparked you into it? Obviously, you know shit, right, about tech and whatnot, but there has to be a certain type of personality to want to put yourself out there. And what was it for you that made you want to get out there and show yourself?
I mean, I've always watched gaming content for a while, honestly. A lot of the earlier days of YouTube was a lot of content surrounded around, like, I think what really popped off on YouTube back then, so we're talking about like 2009 to 2012, was like Call of Duty videos. Call of Duty videos were insane. So you had a lot of people who were doing commentaries on COD, and then they expanded to other games. So we had like World of Warcraft, League of Legends content popped off, and then before Twitch was called Twitch, it was called Justin TV. Then it switched to Twitch, and then Amazon later acquired Twitch.
I used to watch football on Justin TV all the time.
Yeah,
because you used to be able to cheat and like get all them college football games and basketball and shit like that. I remember Justin TV. That shit was fire.
Justin TV was a very different place compared to where Twitch is at right now. A similar thing with YouTube. YouTube was independent, and then Google came and bought YouTube, and a lot of things changed in terms of the way that the algorithm works on YouTube and getting content out there. But for me personally, I've always been inspired by gaming content creators. Now I'm sort of leaning more toward the tech side of things, honestly, because that's just my passion. Is like, I did a review on the monitor and it got 52,000 views.
God damn, that's what's
a lot of positive feedback on that. So I'm like, I can go down that lane of giving my thoughts and impressions on pieces of technology that I own that I recommend to people, and then up and coming stuff as well. Having that discussion. Plus, I know a lot of other knowledgeable people as well, so I can obviously have them on, and we can have that discussion as well.
Okay, what's a checklist like for you? So like you look at that video that did, numbers. What were some of the main like points and things that you felt like you needed to drive home to get your point across for that video to do as well as it did?
Yeah.
Or was it just a fluke?
No, it wasn't a fluke because it was a hot item during the time, and it was really hard to get. So it was the LG 4K monitor with HDMI 2.1. And a lot of people during that time when the console first came out was like, hey, like, what monitor can I pair with my console that's going to be able to utilize the capabilities of that console? So I was like, hey, I have my hands on one right now. I can do a review on it. And I mainly got across all the points I wanted to hit. Display it in the way that I wanted to display it and hit the quality that I wanted to get. And then it went from there. It really did. It took off. I shared it on a lot of different platforms, and part of it is the timing of it because everyone was looking for HDMI 2.1 monitors during that time, so they wanted to see what was the best to get. The LG was one of the most popular ones, so a lot of people were watching videos on it, and one of my videos was just happened to get there in the algorithm. I even did like a PS5 SSD video, got like 3 or 4K views, which is pretty good for a channel my size. So that was another thing that I did as well. So I'm like, if I can remain consistent with content like that, I can get a pretty decent audience.
Now, does getting those kind of views skew you away from just tossing content out? Does it make you kind of nervous about your next project at all?
Not really, because I know I have the capability of putting out a quality video like that consistently. The thing for
Okay.
me is how I mentioned earlier before, because I work full time, I go to school part time, and then I have other things that I'm engaged in my personal life. It's a matter of time. That's the biggest thing. It's just the time that it takes to put into that. And speaking with other people, who've been gaming longer than me, who are older than me, they talk to me about those kind of situations they had earlier in their lives as well. Whether it's family, they have their wife, they have their kids. It's like you have a long life ahead of you. Stay focused on what you have to be focused on right now. Your time, you're gonna have time eventually. It's just right now you have to keep grinding and handling your business internally. So that's what I've been doing. It's just mainly focusing on my school, focusing on my career, and making sure that I have that straightened out first. Gaming is always going to be there for me, and content creation is always going to be there for me. Um, but right now, I really do like the process that I have right now in my personal life. That I know I'm gonna get there eventually.
Okay. That works. All right. So now I'm kind of curious, like, what do you think, like, overall? So we're going to go into just gaming as a whole now. All right. I
Yep.
want you to tell me some of the things that you think are like the biggest misconceptions or overlooked things in today's age in gaming.
Misconceptions in today's age of gaming. I think a lot of the old misconceptions is just not there anymore. A lot of the stigma that was attached to gamers back in the day of, oh, all gamers are nerds in their mom's basements and stuff like that. So it's a false narrative now. It's been proven wrong because of how big gaming is and how
Mm-hmm.
pervasive it is in pop culture. Um, Gaming is mainstream. It's very mainstream. And it's evident by these past couple of years. You've seen the expansion in demand for consoles, demand for particular games and titles. Gaming, this is the biggest that's ever been. It's going to continue to grow. Um, so a lot of those old narratives are just dead narratives now because you see all kinds of people gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everyone that I knew, well, most people I knew in my life were gamers from the nerds in high school to the jocks that played on the high school basketball team. Like everyone was playing something, right? So I think a lot of those misconceptions are gone. I think from a developer standpoint, right? Because a lot of gamers don't understand what it takes to actually make a game.
Right.
If you do the appropriate research and trying to find out what it takes to make a game, it's not easy. It really isn't. So for some studios, some studios deserve the criticism because they have a long line of history in making video games and putting out quality in the past, that when they put out something that isn't up to snuff or doesn't meet their standards, because it's not just about the standards we put on developers, it's about their own internal standards that they have for themselves. When they put out a game that doesn't meet their internal standards, they deserve the criticism for it, right? But then there's other developers where it's like it's rough. It really is rough. Like getting into game development is a really, really rough journey. From pre-production, production, and just getting that game out can be a very rough thing. So I think one of the misconceptions for development is, oh, well, they've done this in the past, they should be able to do this now, stuff like that. It's very situational. It very is. So I think gamers need to be a bit more empathetic as to what goes on behind the scenes. Publishers dictate a lot. Once a publisher says, "Hey, we want the game to be like this," the devs have no choice. Or you might have a publisher that's not as involved and the project is just all over the place and the game comes out half baked.
Right. So speaking of like, games coming out half baked or, games not being ready, do you see this trend of, delays and whatnot continuing into like 2023, 2024? Or do you think that we're finally over the hump of, COVID and whatnot, and we're ready to start pushing some stuff out?
We're definitely over the hump for COVID. A lot of studios are back in the office. The majority of them are back in the office making games. They have access to all their tools. They can actually see each other in the office and collaborate. The way they need to collaborate to make games the way they were making before. In terms of games coming out half baked, I think we live in a reality now where some games are going to come out like that, and it's unfortunate because there's a standard that needs to be upheld in regards to releasing the best version of your game possible. And then whenever little bugs that might pop up, obviously you're gonna get the feedback and patch it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stand seeing certain games that have been overpromised and underdelivered. And Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the perfect examples of that. Battlefield 2042 is another example of that. There's just been so many titles. Halo Infinite is another one as well. Halo Infinite really shocked me in the fact that that game was lacking features at launch that almost every Halo game that preceded had.
Right.
Forge, co-op, stuff like that. Things that are a staple in the franchise that's not there. And then
things
you have to
that
wait.
made the game what it was. Like,
Yeah.
like things that made the game like as perceived as it was on launch for this one. Like everybody looked at this one, and I feel like everyone, anytime Halo comes out with a game, they're expecting Halo 3.
Not only
Like
just
that.
Halo 3. Look at Reach. 4, as divisive as 4 and 5 was, there's no denying that those games had all the features that a typical Halo game would have. Forge, co-op, multiplayer with all the game modes there, right? But then this game comes out and it's like, how do you not have those features? And then when you listen to the developers are like, Halo's always been a competitive game. It's like, no, Halo's always been a cooperative game. You hop on there with your friends, play split screen, campaign, or 2v2 when you have 4 players at the crib playing the game. Like, it's always been a fun game. And then competitive came after that because everything was there for you to have competitive if you wanted to have competitive. But for the most part, it was a fun arena shooter that everyone can hop on and just play. Whether it's making custom maps on Forge, and then going to custom games and playing Jenga or something, Trash Compactor. I mean, all these fun game modes that made the complete experience of Halo outside of, oh, we're gonna hop on and play 4v4 competitive. Like, that's not the focus of what the game was.
Man. Yep, you hit that pretty well. But on top of that, I kind of want to know, do you think that Xbox is finally gonna push out a bunch of first party things this coming year in 2023? Or do you think it's gonna be more of hurry up and wait?
I hope they would. They're starting off the year with Starfield, so that's a good start for them. But then we have to see what other titles they have coming out for the rest of the year. So I would like to hope that Hellblade 2 is coming out 2023, and we have more updates for Fable and Avowed. Like, I want to know the release window of most of these games. You know, even if they don't come out next year, I just want to know the updates on the status of these games. Like, how far along are they in development? What can you show us right now? What can you tease us? Stuff like that, so that you keep these games fresh in the mind of gamers, and the anticipation is there. When you reveal a game, you know, if I reveal a game right now, and it's like, oh, we're gonna do this X, Y, and Z. Let's say we're doing an action RPG game, right? I reveal it to you, CGI trailer, cinematic. You're like, oh, this looks interesting, and then you don't hear from me for 3-4 years. You're like, where's that game at? And for the most part, it's gonna be forgotten because I haven't kept you updated on what's happening with that game. Unlike other titles where, you know, Cyberpunk got announced in like 2013, and then every year or every other year they were showing you something for the game. So it was fresh in people's minds.
That game was the
anticipation
tease
and the
of
hype
the
was
decade.
there. Oh, that's the meanest tease I've ever seen in my life. That's crazy. But at least they knew what they were doing with the marketing of that game, though.
Oh, phenomenal! Yeah,
It was a
They got you.
marketing
got
genius.
everybody.
They got everyone. That was crazy.
Because I remember sitting on my couch. Was it like? It was like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember sitting on my couch watching that Cyberpunk commercial, and I was just like, "Ain't no way my Xbox One is finna do this."
And then you see E3, and it's like almost every E3 they got you. Like, oh, we got Cyberpunk on the way. I'm just like, damn, they got people ready for it. I think that's what Xbox needs to understand is like, hey, you announce the game, you have to keep it fresh in the minds of the gamers so that they are anticipating this. And you give them something to talk about, like, hey, you know, this developer just had this recent interview. They're talking about how innovative the design is and what they're doing with the story, all this stuff. We haven't been getting that. We haven't. Even, like, think about it, how people were craving for God of War Ragnarok, right? To the point where they were sliding in the DMs of developers sending D-pics.
Disrespectful.
It was crazy. It was crazy because you had Cory Barlog like, yo, we're working hard at this game. We're doing some amazing stuff. Like, people were hype. We don't have that right now for any particular title on Xbox. Now, if you ask me personally, what's my most anticipated Xbox game? It has to be Avowed. It has to be Avowed.
But they haven't really showed anything for that.
That's what, they haven't shown anything, but we know what Obsidian is capable of doing. Like, they make those RPG type of games, and I'm like, if this is their version of Skyrim, you got me sold. I'm there. I'm there.
I mean, you're selling me on it more and more, and and it's very much like you said. It's almost forgotten about because it's so rarely talked about.
Yeah, that Fable, like Fable's another heavily anticipated game from Xbox gamers because it's made from Playground Games, and they've been able to do a lot of great things with their in-house engine. So like,
Mhm.
oh, we take this engine, we make a Fable style game. They can do some things.
All right, so
Hellblade 2 is another one for me as well. I actually
yes.
enjoy Ninja Theory. I like their games.
Okay, but now I kind of want to ask you about like, so we've seen how Halo came out, we've seen how Cyberpunk came out. Um, do you still think, now this is kind of a side question to the main question I'm asking here. Do you think Halo still has a chance of capturing an audience, like a mega audience like before?
We talked about this yesterday. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. It is possible that Halo Infinite can be turned around, much like in the way that MCC was turned around.
And
MCC,
that turned around.
it really did. That game, I'm glad that game turned around the way it did, because I'm like, to have all those Halo games in one collection, it's an amazing feat, right?
Mhm.
But then all you had to do was nail the servers, because you couldn't find games when the game came out. They redid the menu system. They added all the classic game modes there. It's a wonderful experience that you're getting from MCC. Can Infinite get there? There's a couple of things they have to do. They have to, one, do constant content drops, right? Maps, game modes.
You said none of the 6 to 8
None of the
month
6 to 8
bullshit.
month stuff. No. And that's the issue with going with a season pass model, was the fact that their season pass model isn't as lucrative as other games like an Apex Legends, like a Call of Duty, or even a Destiny, where you have your main game, which has a solid foundation, no matter how people might feel about those particular games. The foundation's there in terms of the core gameplay aspects. You have a lot of maps that drops at launch, a lot of weapons, and then you just expand from there, right? Halo did it backwards, where it's bare bones, and then you have to add it, but they're adding it slowly. Now, the guy that turned around MCC is now in charge of Infinite. So can he follow the same path that he did before and make it good for Infinite? Who knows? Probably. He did it before. Can he do it again? Most likely. But they have to have a very clear and concise plan as to the roadmap of Halo Infinite. And they have to communicate that.
And the way that they change it up into a free to play kind of thing really shakes things up for the way that they want to roll out some things. So
Yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to watch. But my main question with asking you about that and Cyberpunk was, do you think this is possibly the new norm, to where a game will come out broken and just like, like almost like, I'm a fuck up now and ask for forgiveness later, whatever? Do you think that's going to be like a new norm rolling forward?
I don't want it to be the new norm.
Oh, none of us want it to be.
I hope it's not. And it's I've been saying this for like the past 3 years, that this is becoming more and more of a trend from AAA devs. This is something that you expect from an indie. This is something that you expect from like an early access title, where it comes out rough, but it gets better with feedback over time. Like, I can understand for the smaller teams, but when you have a multi-million-dollar budget for a game and it comes out the way it does, what that shows me is that your development cycle was bad, right? And people need to really understand like the stages of making a game, because in some point in time there is miscommunication, and there is a lack of direction from the top on down, to the point where these games are coming out incomplete. There's no consistency with it. There is a lack of systems being translated from the old game to the new and being iterated on it. I mean, it's just bad. It really is bad. And particularly for these long-standing franchises. Cyberpunk new IP, okay, we'll give you that, but you made multiple Witcher games in the past, and you've shown to have the capability to make a quality game, but this game was just rough. Whereas Halo is like, Halo, you have 6 to 7 other games where you can build from, but they didn't do that. which is so odd to me. Like a game mode like King of the Hill is in your game day one. How is that possible? Forge isn't there. It doesn't
I
make
was
sense.
begging for Action Sack. I was like, man,
Action
Sack
Sack,
was
yeah.
my thing, man. What is it called? Like Infected and Territories, Griff Ball, Oddball. Yeah, I mean, man, that shit was like
fun game modes. Fun
exactly.
Game modes.
I don't hop into Halo to be a MLG player.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I already know I'm not that guy.
I believe 99% of the community feels the same way you do, and I do as well. We don't play Halo to be competitive games. You hop into to have fun, play the game, do whatever. That's it. And it wasn't like that. Like at launch, it wasn't like that. You don't have a global ranking system. And remember, like Halo Reach. I think Halo Reach had the best like level up system with the CR and then the titles that you can have, Inheritor, Noble, stuff like that. Like outside of having your MLG playlist, you had something to actually grind for inside that game that correlated to status, a rank, armor unlock, stuff like that. Everything's now tied to a battle pass.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. Even in Halo 3, going for level 50 in Halo 3 was a really good achievement. You don't have something like that.
I remember back in the day, I'd literally play Halo, like I said, Action Sack, but like I used to pray that this weekend is Griff Ball. Please let this weekend be Griff Ball, right? And then they'd bring it on, and I'd literally be laughing from the beginning of the match to the end of the match because I didn't care. I was just playing it to have a good time. I felt like I was running around with a football and getting stabbed by people. It was fantastic. It was a great time, and yeah, I really just want that type of enjoyment back. You can kind of get that now with custom games, but it's just not the same as like.
It's not the same.
Yeah, because something about like having your crew of like 4 or whatever, and then just going up against some people that you don't know. It just felt good. Compared to some of these custom matches where it's like, nah, I want him on my team. Nah, that's we finna get stomped because y'all got a what's his name? Man, I'm blanking on his name right now. J Rock. Yeah, y'all got J Rock because so we gonna lose. We gonna lose.
You got T squared, fucking Halo 2 champion on your team.
Right. But yeah, so yeah, I just had to ask you that because I was kind of curious about that. But moving forward, we're gonna hit some of these like kind of bonus questions or like questions that I like to ask every episode. And the first one is like, what genre in games just pisses off DopeIsJay? Or do you just not really feel?
A particular genre.
Like, let me put it this way.
Oh, I can. Oh, yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
RTSs. I don't like RTSs.
Not a fan of the real time strategy. Yeah.
No, I don't play real time strategies like Halo Wars and stuff like that. What was that? Was that Gears one that did RTS
Tactics
style? Yeah, I don't like those games. I don't like them.
You're not about the tactic stuff.
Nah, I will never forget. 'Cause I used to play a lot of Tom Clancy games. I played a lot of Rainbow back in the day, Ghost Recon. There was this RTS called Tom Clancy End War. I copped that thinking it was like Ghost Recon or anything else, and it was an RTS, and I was so pissed off. I said, "What the fuck?" And this is back in the day before
like the stain on
we were. Yeah, you look at the back of the case, and you're like, "Oh, this shirt looks fire." I'm like, all right, let me see what this is about, and I was misled by the back of the case. So yeah, RTSs, I don't play them.
So many times that happened back in the days when we didn't have like the ease of going to YouTube and just being like, let me look at this gameplay real quick and see what this is about before I make my digital purchase on my console or something like that, right? So many times that I go to Blockbuster or GameStop or Software Etc. or something like that, and look behind the case and be like, man, this joint looks fire. And I take it home after spending $50-$60 on it and find
Crazy,
out that
man.
I'm over here trying to put the plastic back in it. Like
Yeah,
like,
you can't return
trying to
the
think-
game.
Exactly. I'm over here like I never opened this thing. Y'all take this shit back. I don't
Yeah,
want
once
it.
you got it, man, you just gotta hold that L because like, damn, I opened up the game, I took the plastic off and everything. Can't even return this shit. You gotta sell it for $10 at GameStop, and you
Mhm.
spent 60 on it. Like, what's going on?
That shit was disrespectful.
Mhm.
All right, so if you could go back to any generation and like tear it down, have every single game at your disposal, which generation of games would that be? Or better yet, which console would it be?
I will go back to 360.
Wow.
If I take myself right now, 25-year-old DopeIsJay right now, back into Xbox 360 when it first came out, I'll be one of the biggest YouTubers. The
Why
kind
you
of
say that?
content, because me knowing what I know right now, if I go back then, easily, a lot of people don't understand the business of YouTube and like just marketing through gaming. The kind of audience that you can garner. I mean, now the market is just so saturated, right? So it's a bit
Yes.
hard to like just blow up. But you take me right now back then, and so it's mainly because like I know how those games are played. So if you take me now and I go back and play COD 4, because I drop numbers in Call of Duty and Halo, and nobody was making that kind of content of like, hey, we're going for 50 bombs, 80 bombs in the match. Or yo, I'm a hop on Halo, hop in Big Team Battle and drop 50 kills. Like that kind of content was what was circulating back then, but there weren't too many people doing that. But not only just that, but like the social experience of like 360 when it first like started popping off and Xbox Live, and just those games, man. Like I love those games. I love Call of Duty 4, Halo 3, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, Skate. There were some really good Dragon Ball Z games that came out back then. Burst Limit, Burst Limit is still one of the good looking games, for Dragon Ball Z to this very day. I'm mad that they only went up to the Cell Saga. I thought they were gonna do like a sequel to the Buu Saga, but hey, it is what it is. Even the Naruto games, like the Storm games that came out back then, they were fire. On 360, there were two exclusive Naruto games, Rise of a Ninja and Broken Bond. They were open world Naruto games by Ubisoft. Those games were fire too. Love those games.
Man,
Skate was
Ubisoft-
great.
Ubisoft was so good. in the
Yeah, Assassin's
360
Creed
era.
when it first came out. Come on, man.
Yep. Assassin's
Come
Creed
on.
1, 2, was it
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you
There were a lot of
Ghost
bangers. I played a lot of
Recon, Advanced
I played a lot of
Warfare,
2K.
Future Soldier.
Yeah, I played a lot of 2K back then as well. 2K11, 2K12, 13. 11 is still one of my favorite 2Ks ever. I played a lot of 2K back then. So there was a wide variety of games that I played. There was some JRPGs on there too. There was like a Tales of Vesperia, I believe. Was on 360. One of those Tales games was on 360. That was pretty good. And there was all this stuff like what was it? Prince of Persia. Yeah, Prince of Persia, Ninja Gaiden, Gears.
Oh, of
I mean,
course,
man,
Gears.
there was so many games on 360, which is why I want them to
Absolutely.
capitalize on that again.
There were
Get that-
games.
Get that.
There were games that got like one and dones on 360 that were absolutely phenomenal. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you ever got to play Marlowe Briggs.
No, I never played that.
That game was like a classic God of War
Oh.
style game.
How did I forget Saints Row?
Oh,
Saints Row was one of the first games I had on 360 as well. The first one, and then I got the second one when the second one came out day one. Those games were fire too. And then there was I talk about this to Smooth
Totally
all the
different
time.
from what they are now, though.
Oh man, very different. People don't understand. I was like, you had to either play those games or be there during the prime of those games to really understand what they're missing in terms of what Saints Row was versus where it is now. Like, I didn't buy the most recent Saints Row after seeing it because I'm like, it's not what I want from a Saints Row game personally.
They're thugging in the
But-
old ones.
yeah, oh yeah, because they had a balance between gang banging and like the goofy aspect of it. This one's just full goofy, full goofy.
Too much goofy for me.
Yeah, but John Woo's Stranglehold. Me and Smooth would talk about that occasion. Like, yo, if they ever say we need to remake a game, that's a game they should remake.
Okay.
Full remake for that game.
Now
360. That's my gen.
Now let's fast forward back to this generation. I want you to answer what makes you kind of hesitant, if anything, about this current generation.
My only issue about this gen is crushing development. That's it. I'm all in on this generation. All in. Both from
Do you think this will be the best generation of all time in gaming? Because I mean, you got the you got the Xbox that seems like they're finally like taking it serious after the one era. Like it felt like a long, like dang near like 7-8 years, right? And Xbox is like they seem like they're all in. PlayStation, it's been in. Nintendo's crushing it with the Switch again after a piss poor performance with the Wii U.
yeah.
Steam Deck's coming. Steam is coming. Even further than they ever have before. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on in gaming. Do you think this is going to be that generation?
I think it can be because, like I mentioned before, this is the biggest gaming has ever been, right? And gaming is continuing to grow in regards to the revenue that it generates every year, the investment that's being made into gaming, and the scale of these games that we're seeing coming out now. So the hardware is there, the software is there. Now we just need the games to match it, right? And I think that this generation from AAA needs to stop doing what we talked about in terms of launching games half baked and fix it later. No, you need to come with the best looking and running AAA games we've seen ever. That's the first thing, right? So that comes with cutting off crushing development and making games for the series and PS5 console alone. We see what's happening in the PC space where in the PC space we have new hardware dropping, new CPUs, new GPUs. So from the PC standpoint, the tech is always going to continue to go ahead, right? The thing that's holding it back is, hey, we still have to program our games for a console from 2013. You can't keep doing that. So when we cut off the Xbox One and the PS4 and we say, hey, Series and PS5, you are going to see a shift in the way that games are made. You're going to see a huge shift. It's going to be night and day. You're going to be like, all right, we had our Horizon and God of War Ragnarok and stuff like that, right? Well, the next Naughty Dog game, the next Insomniac game, you're going to be like, whoa, we ain't seen nothing like this ever be done. I hope to God GTA 6 is on next gen only.
Oh goodness, I hope so too.
I hope to God because
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that they're gonna go back a gen.
When I see what they did with Red Dead 2, I said, "Oh my God, if Red Dead 2 is insane." But if they did PS5 series consoles only, I'm telling you, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be very, very different. So I think this generation has the potential of being the best generation ever because of how big gaming is now. So many titles, AAA, AA, indies. I mean, look at some of the indie titles that we have coming out.
Yeah,
I mean, we have like one-man
teams putting out some quality.
Yeah, look at Bright Memory. If you give that guy 20 other people and $10 million, he's he gonna put out some nice first-person shooter games.
Absolutely. And these engines nowadays are just insane.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna ask? Within this generation as well, I'm wondering if do you think that there's a do you think there's a possibility that one of these consoles can feel snubbed at all from all of the acquisitions and stuff like that going on? So you look at this current one that's going on with, Activision Blizzard. Are you a fan of that kind of stuff, or does that bother you?
It doesn't bother me. I understand the business behind it and the justification from a Microsoft standpoint of why they want to acquire an Activision Blizzard. I think that there's a lot of fear of consolidation within the gaming market in terms of everyone being acquired by just three gaming companies and that's it. But I don't think that's going to happen because, you know, for every studio that gets acquired, there is going to be this one revolutionary dev that forms his own team and starts up his own studio and say, hey, these are the kind of games you want to make, and they're going to get investment. So there's always going to be a new hot young dev or an experienced
Like a
dev
new
that comes into
Bungie
the
kind of
market.
thing?
Yeah, there's going to be someone that comes along and say, hey, these are the kind of games that we're making, and they're going to do it. So like I said, gaming is going to continue to grow. There's going to be new studios that form. Now, is there going to be another publisher that forms? I don't know. That's very difficult to say. But you can look at something like a CD Projekt Red, where they're their own studio and publisher. Bethesda was like that for a while as well, where they grew to the point where they're their own publisher. So I think it's possible to have another publisher come into the game, start their own studio, have a title pop off, and then continue making their own sub studios, right? You see this happen on PC all the time. Look at PUBG. PUBG is a perfect example of an independent studio that released a game that was so popular, and they make so much money off of PUBG on PC, console, and mobile. And it wouldn't surprise me if that studio in particular was like, all right, we're gonna take 20 people here, 30 people here, and make other subset titles under the same umbrella. That's what happens all the time. And then they continue to hire and fill in positions there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% behind you on that one. I think the more these like PlayStations or Nintendo, Tencent, Xbox, all these acquisitions that go on actually frees up room for other people to explode and come onto the scene and be like, oh shit, we weren't looking at you, but now we watching. Now we watching closely. But does this make you nervous into thinking that, okay, you're doing great, we're gonna nab you real quick?
Oh, it really depends because you have to. It happens a lot. We see this with the big like conglomerate companies like your Facebook, Amazon, Google's. They're just buying up all these smaller companies and merging them into this big entity that we know now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the smartest thing that some of these companies can do is say, hey, we know we have the potential to be bigger than what we are right now. And why would we sell ourselves for 10 million right now when we can sell for 200 million, 300 million in a decade? Some people don't think like that though. They don't. So if it was me, if I'm like, hey, I'm starting up my own studio, we're getting angel investors to help us in regards to onboarding more people, expanding our studio, getting more tech, increasing the quality of our games, I wouldn't sell right away because I want to actualize what we can actually do as a gaming developer in the company. and grow from there.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I look at somebody like Compulsion that got picked up by Xbox, and it's like the game that you kind of think of when you see Compulsion is like We Happy Few,
Mhm.
right? But it's just like I wonder if I wonder if they had a game kind of like laid out at all, and Xbox was like walking, and then they're like, oh shit, double take, look at it, and it was like, oh, I need to copy you.
Yeah, it happens a lot within the gaming industry. You'd be surprised how many of these guys actually know each other behind the scenes, and they're like, "Hey, we're working on this project. This developer from Dice might know somebody from Infinity Ward, and they see something that Infinity Ward is doing, and like, oh, like this is pretty nice. We should actually do this in our game as well." And then you have executives that are like, they go around the industry, go to different studios, see what different developers are working on. And if they see something that they like, they'll go and say, "Hey, we'll buy you guys. We'll acquire you guys." And on top of us coming to an agreement to acquire you guys, we would actually fund more money into your project that you're working on right now.
Okay. Well, speaking of studios, I want you now to tell me what your favorite studio is and what game best represents that studio.
My favorite studio. Um, I would have to say, I would say Bungie. I would say Bungie. I put too much time into Bungie games. From Halo to Destiny. I mean, a lot. I'm talking about thousands of hours. It's ridiculous. Thousands of hours into these games. The game that best represents them, Halo 3.
Oh man, you went straight for the jugular on that one.
Halo 3. That's the
Okay.
game that best represents Bungie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
From
think a lot of people would
campaign,
agree with you.
multiplayer. Yeah, that encapsulates everything that Bungie was capable of during that time. And still is capable of, even to this very day. From level design to narrative to the multiplayer, the music. I mean, that game's absolutely legendary. I can get on that game right now and still have a great time.
That's true. Now, what are the best 3 games that you've played in the last year? And of the 3 games, which one's the best?
Final Fantasy 7 Remake,
That's the best?
best I played.
Okay, and then the other 2 games are.
It was that. FF7 Remake. I didn't beat God of War in the last year, no.
Did you get
That
down
was
on
like
Elden Ring?
I didn't play Elden Ring yet. No,
Okay.
I didn't get to that yet.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Forbidden West I dropped. I didn't beat it yet.
Why? Like after
I
all
didn't
this
beat it.
stuff, I mean, obviously
I
you
didn't beat it yet. I got burnt out of the game. I was like, man, I gotta take a break
were
from
you trying to
this.
platinum it?
No, I wasn't trying. Well, actually, yeah, because like that game, I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to do the main stuff and the side stuff at the same time. And I was like, I can't do this right now. It's like I had the open world fatigue from
Mhm.
playing so many open world games. I was like, yeah, I need to take a step back and just not deal with this right now.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, open world
remake,
fatigue's a
remake is
real
the
thing.
best. Remake is the best for me that I've been in the past year, man. Like that that story. I played it with the PS5 update as well, so like the visuals are improved as well. I love the music inside that game. Like that's a game where the length of the game didn't matter to me whatsoever. Some people don't like longer games, and that game for me, I was recording myself playing that game as well. Like I have a lot of footage recorded, and that was 700 gigabytes worth of footage from that game for me beating it. Um,
My goodness.
it was insane. I need to make a video on that because that game was just one of the better experiences I've had. um in recent memory, and I can't wait for the second part of that game. Yeah, the FF7 remake. I can't get into full detail. It's just like I try to tell people you have to experience that game for yourself. And even if you didn't even play the original Final Fantasy VII, like this game is meant for everyone. OG fans, new fans getting into the game, anyone can play it.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I've actually just started that game just a couple weeks ago. First time. I hated Final Fantasy on the original PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII, I was not a fan of. I do not like turn-based that much. I don't
Yeah,
really mess with it that much. But I turned on this game and was anticipating like there to be some turn-based to it, but it's not.
it's not. It's just free flowing combat. Um, you you can do so much inside that game. It's insane. Like in terms of different combinations you can have with your builds of your characters, different weapons, material that you can get. Um, one piece of advice I would give you, get elemental material. Get
Get
that.
element. Okay,
Yeah, get
that's good to know
elemental
because
material.
I just got to the point where he got his apartment,
Yeah. Oh, you're
so
early
I'm
on.
really
Yeah.
early in the game.
Yeah, you can find a couple of elemental material throughout the playthrough. Just like look it up, and
Right now, I'm
that's
looking for
gonna help you out.
cats. I'm wondering what the fuck's going on. I'm like looking for
Yeah,
cats.
that's a side mission. That's a side mission. Yeah. Side missions are great as well because you get that XP and it's gonna help you out later in the game. Like the side quests actually aren't that bad. I like them a lot. Like that's one of the games I was like, I'm invested in not only just the main story but the side stuff as well because you get items, you get the XP, and I'm one of those guys. I like to be sort of over leveled
Right.
for activities so that when I just continue progressing through the story, I'm like, yeah, I'm just it's a breeze for me. But
That's how
then
I
there's
did it on Elden Ring. I was like, I'm
yeah,
over leveling the hell. I'm trying to one tap everything if I
you
can.
just spec out your build. That's it. But there's eh, um there's combat sequences inside the game that it doesn't matter what fucking level you are. It's just a challenge because you have to learn the mechanics of that particular boss or enemy that
Hmm.
you're fighting. But then once you learn it, then you're like, all right, this is pretty easy.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games where you have to listen to the commentary of the game because they
Mhm.
will tell you how to beat something. But if you're not paying attention, you'll just be attacking nothing and getting nothing out of it.
And you wanna stagger your enemies, so you're figuring out what their weaknesses, so you can stagger them and do the most damage that you can.
Right, right. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end. I got just a few more questions left before we get up out of here, but I got to know what Dope is Jay's most exciting game within like let's say like let's push away 2022 and just move from 2023 and beyond. What game or games are you most excited for?
I like the idea of Avow, so I wanna see more of it. So that's more of a title that I'm anticipating and seeing what Obsidian can do with that game. So I'm excited for that. FF7 Remake Part 2, I'm very excited for as well. Just continuing to build on that story and what they established with on FF7 Remake and Integrate and continuing that. And yeah, it's a PS5 only title as well. So I want to see what they do in terms of design from the remake part one to this one. So there's that game as well. Um, I'm looking forward to the next Naughty Dog project. Um, they said they were working on a new IP. They have a Last of Us multiplayer coming out, but I'm more focused on their new IP. Last of Us content, I'm burnt out on right now. I'm just like, I want the
Did you get part
new.
1?
No, I didn't get part one. Mm-mm.
You didn't want to buy the remake?
No, I didn't want to buy it. Mm-mm. I'd rather buy it on PC when it's on sale than buy it on PS5 and have the
Damn,
inferior
you're
version of
not
the game.
that guy. No, I'm just fucking with you.
I just want to play the game at a higher frame rate and higher resolution on my PC than to just spend 70 on the console. And it's like, and I beat the game in 2020 before Last of Us Part 2 came out. So I beat Last of Us 1 and hop straight into 2. So it's still
Yep,
fresh
that's
in my
exactly how
mind.
I did it. I did back to back. So when they said they were busting out part one again, I was just like, I just beat that like a year and a half ago. I'm good.
Yeah, I wasn't motivated to say, "Oh my god, I want to buy this so I can play it." No,
From what I heard,
I
it's
didn't
the best.
care.
It's like the best, if not one of the best looking games on PS5s, which I don't doubt it. But for that game, it's all about the story for me,
Yeah,
and I don't need to relive that story.
Last of Us is one of those games that are like, I love it. It's great, but it's so stressful to play. Like just
Yep.
the mental state I was in after playing both of those games back to back. I was like, yeah, I gotta play something else, man. I can't. It's such a roller coaster ride with the emotions and the events that are taking place and that world that they created. They did a wonderful job establishing a certain tone with that game. And then for me in part two, getting invested in particular characters and just having them die, I was like, wow, like this is insane. But that's the world that they built. Anyone can get clapped.
Oh, for real.
Yeah, it's
For
crazy.
real. I mean, especially part two. Like it was like,
Yeah,
man.
part two, I was shocked. I was like, he got clapped. That's it. He just died. Like what? It was on some Game of Thrones shit, man. I was like, no
Well,
way.
it's weird because the way that they did it in The Last of Us 2, it felt like that they made you really viciously hate characters, viciously hate people, and then they go into the backstory of like each one, and then they make you feel some type of way.
Yeah.
And then right when you get to your height of liking them, they're done. You are no
It's
longer on the
just
set.
it's just it was so crazy to me. I'm like, I can't do this again. I have to take a couple of years before I
Right.
get back into that. It's not like playing Uncharted. And it's like I can play Uncharted again. This is a fun
It's
adventure.
kind of a happy story in the way because
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you play them now, because then you know there's a continuation to the next one. You don't feel
Mm,
like, oh man, Drake's gonna die this game. It's like, nah, he good. But like, I am really curious if Naughty Dog's planning on pushing that story forward at all, and if they're gonna use Drake, like Nathan Drake. But I personally think, especially in the time that we live in, that if they made a new Uncharted, they'd use the daughter.
That's if they plan on continuing this existing story. I think personally, they should keep Uncharted on the shelf for a couple years. All right. Plan another like 4 or 5 years. Reboot the franchise and do a new rendition of it. And you can reintroduce the characters again, but have it be like a fresh slate, brand new story. Like how I mean God of War did it different where it's like it's continuing the story, but it's like a soft reboot and you're in a different like anthology or mythology. But I'm
Mhm.
saying like this game, yo, reboot it, reintroduce Nathan Drake and all those characters, and let's have a brand new story, fresh. We can even do like a younger Nathan Drake or something, and just go from there and have all these big, massive adventures. I mean, the thing that got me hooked with the Uncharted games is just the exploration aspect of it, just exploring and you felt like an actual explorer and learning about history and going through that game. It was just so fun. And the visuals were amazing as well.
All right. So going back into the past one last time, I want you to answer me this. If you were to revive two games that the IPs are seemingly dead or they are dead, what two IPs would you go back and have them make into your quadruple A crazy dope experience?
Um, Killzone's one of them. I feel like Killzone was done dirty. I think if they actually tried to bring back Killzone and have people who are who care about first person shooters and care about the Killzone franchise and try to move it forward. I think that's one of the franchises I'll bring back, especially since Sony's like, oh, the Activision deal, blah 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 blah. Where if you had your own in-house first-person shooter game that was actually good, because they've strayed away from multiplayer. Like you need some sort of multiplayer experience to keep those players engaged, have a lot of concurrent players over a certain period of time. So yeah, something like Killzone. If it's not Killzone, then Infamous. I love the Infamous games. Those games are so fun. I thought they did a great job of displaying a power fantasy, like being a superhuman and developing your abilities and becoming an absolute badass by the end of the game once you unlock all those abilities. And even what they did with Ghost of Tsushima and having that power fantasy of being the ultimate freaking samurai. And once you learn all of your stances, all of your combos, you slicing through some motherfuckers like it's nothing.
In all
It's
different type
crazy.
of ways.
All different types of ways. Like that's the thing I like about what they did with those games from Sucker Punch. Is like in the beginning, you alright, but once you start to play the game more and you start to unlock your abilities, you become a real badass. Like the power fantasies in those games are insane.
Oh, and it's beautiful too. I'm really excited to see what Sucker Punch has coming up down the line. I feel like they have to go into like Ghost 2 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got PlayStation talking about we're gonna remaster Zero Dawn. Fuck no, remake Infamous 1 and 2.
So you're not.
Come on, man.
So yeah, that's one of the last questions I got for you. What do you think about these remasters from games? Like, do you want? And I'm going ahead and be specific. PlayStation. What do you think about PlayStation's idea of remastering? I mean, I get it. Let's keep in mind they're coming out with like TV shows and stuff like that now, right? So they want the most eyes to be able to look at it. And then if they're drawing off of a story like Zero Dawn, they probably want it to look as aesthetically good on the video game. So when they go to throw it on Netflix or something like that, it's like, oh man, we got a fresh show with a fresh game, even though it's not really that fresh of a game.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't like it because it's like Zero Dawn doesn't need a remaster. It doesn't. I understand that they're trying to have this whole universe of we have the game, movie, TV show, so we're gonna market the game with the TV show when the TV show comes out. But like you don't have to
And service. Don't forget about that, and live service as
and
well.
live service. I mean, they could do their thing with live service. I don't care about that. My thing is the remakes and remasters of titles that aren't that old. If it's a game that doesn't have a 60 FPS update that I can play on the current system, or it's so old to the point where it's rough, then yeah, go ahead, remake it, remaster it. But if you're just remastering it for the sake of remastering it, then what's the point, right? What people need to understand is that if you have a compelling enough TV show, that's based off of a video game, like how Witcher did, the game's gonna sell. Witcher 3 sales start peaking and surpassing old sales when the TV show came out. Look
Kinda
at
like Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk anime. Cyberpunk anime came out on Netflix, and Cyberpunk sales start to skyrocket again. So it depends on what you do. Look at what they did with the Spider-Man movie. They were marketing the game on PS5 and PS4 along with the movie, and sales began to take off. So you don't have to re-release something for it to sell again. Just make sure you
remember, not that long
market
ago,
it again.
not that long ago, Cyberpunk was selling for like $10-20
$10-20
at like
bargain
you
bin.
just walk into Best Buy and just I want Cyberpunk, and it'd be like $20.
Now look, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
And that game went right back to 60.
Yep.
You already know, but all right. So fantastic. What frustrates you about gaming as a whole? So this could be like whether it's community, games not coming out finished, people buying studios, like Like just anything that revolves around gaming. What frustrates you the most?
I think the thing that frustrates me the most is um just fandom. Fandom has become so toxic now. So toxic. It's ridiculous. Um and this isn't an issue that's exclusively gaming. It's across many other communities where fandom just gets out of hand.
Hmm.
Like how I mentioned earlier about God of War Ragnarok and what the fans were doing and sliding in DMs of these developers and sending very inappropriate pictures or even threatening certain people. Fandom can go too far. There is a lot of positive influences within the community, people who are spreading the right messages and right and just doing the right thing, right? Like, but then you have a lot of people who love the back and forth, get disrespectful, people cursing each other out. And it's like we all here just have fun and play video games at the end of the day. When has it ever been that serious? We can have a civil discourse about our opinions and our perspectives on gaming and the gaming industry as a whole. Um, but there's been too many times. I mean, just this year alone, I hop into space and there's people just screaming off the top of their
Screaming.
lungs and oh, I'll pull up to your place and drop your address. And it's gotten to the point where I've just distanced myself from not only individuals like that, but that part of the community and just, the people that I know who I can have a conversation with, I have a conversation with them. Everyone else, you can reply to my tweet. I don't care. I'm not I'm
That
not
sucks
doing
because that's
that.
the opposite of what gaming's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
You're not
inclusive.
supposed to seclude. Yeah, it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be out there. I felt like when obviously when Xbox Live came out and stuff like that, you'd go on hop on Call of Duty and it was like the most toxic thing you ever seen in your life.
Yeah, that's different though. Like
But
that's just people
yeah,
being like dumbasses. But when you have like grown ass adults on a social media platform or any platform that is willing to take it to a level that it doesn't have to go to over a video game or a console or whatever, that's just immature in my opinion. That's just very immature. And I just don't like to see that because I know a lot of people are better than that. We talk about people that got families, they got kids, wives and stuff like that. Just like going above and beyond for what?
no,
I don't
nothing,
know. It's
nothing.
just weird.
I mean, that's what they're going above and beyond for is nothing because they're not getting paid at the end of the day. They're not making any decisions for the company at the end of the day. Um, Sometimes they don't even have the money to afford what they're talking about. You know, so yeah, that's kind of sad. So that's your frustration thing. I like to try to leave it off on a good note. What's like a dream come true for you within gaming?
This is like I mentioned, the growth. I love to see when we have a lot more people coming into the gaming industry and discovering how much they love it. Um, there's always going to be younger people or even older people that are getting into gaming for the first time. This might be the first console that they own, PS5, Xbox Series console, and they're having a wonderful time on that. So I like to encourage that, like, hey, enjoy the games that you're playing, cherish it because it's here one day and it's gone the next, but there's always something new coming out, right? Some of the experiences that we had when we were kids or young adults playing some of these games, some of that we will never get back. Some of the experiences you might have had on a particular multiplayer game, the servers are shut down or the game's
Mm.
dead. You're not going to get that back. So you need to enjoy it and appreciate what you have right now because, as time moves by, there's going to be a lot of different games coming out. Obviously, you're gonna discover that new game that does it for you during that time, but nothing beats that that borderline addiction that you might have to a particular game during that time. You're not going to get that back.
Yep, enjoy it while you got it.
Enjoy it where you got it.
I mean, especially when you see games like Overwatch 1, what happened to that?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I used to play
Like
a
that,
lot of
like
Overwatch 1.
that game is done now. They shut down that server. It is KO'd.
It's gone. You can never get that
Um,
back.
Ubisoft with like Advanced Warfighter or Advanced Warfare or no wait what was
Warfighter, yeah.
that? Yeah, Advanced Warfighter and like Future Soldier. You can't play co-op on those anymore online.
Cannot play that. It's gone.
It's gone. So and I was in the middle of playing co-op with some friends in it, and now we can't go back and play it together. I gotta go through that solo now,
Yep.
which sucks. But like, it's like you just said, you gotta just enjoy it while it's around because, especially with these online games, you never know. A couple
They're
years
not
down
gonna
the
be here
line,
forever.
I mean, and plus, I mean, you got flops coming in too, like Babylon's Fall, where it ain't even been a year and they're talking about shutting it down.
Well, that's grand opening, grand closing right there. That's
It's embarrassing. That's what it is.
that's real here today, gone the next, forgotten. That's crazy. That's real Babylon's Fall right there. That's a true fall.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it ain't good when what's that game? Crossfire X is outliving you.
Yeah, come on, man. That's a damn shame. That's a damn shame.
Right. And Crossfire X got a lower score than it, and it's still outliving it.
Still here. Come on, man.
That ain't
People
good.
still playing that game to this day.
All right, bro. Well, we've reached the end. The last two questions I got for you is: do you have any questions for me at all?
What you got planned this holiday season? What you looking forward to?
Bro, man. So first up is next week, Scorn comes out.
Yep.
I'm excited to play that disgusting ass looking motherfucking game. I'm ready to grab the umbilical cord and rip that shit off and do all that.
That game looks disturbing, but yeah.
Are you interested in it at all?
I'll play it.
You said you try. Sure. You looking like, I'll try it.
No, I'll definitely try it, but if it's not like something I'm feeling, let that chick say, you thought I was feeling you? Nah, if I'm not feeling you, I'm not doing it.
I got you. I'm excited for that. A Plague's Tale, Requiem. I'm excited for a game that I've let slip my mind that I just got reminded of just the other day was High on Life.
Oh,
that game funny as a motherfucker.
I can't believe I forget. Yeah, that's one of my most anticipated games at the end of the year, man. That looks like it's gonna be so much fun.
Right? Obviously, God of War. I think that goes without saying, though.
Yeah, God of War is God of War, man. God of War is always gonna be here, man. But like, it's more like the unique titles that come out in between.
There's a few there's a few games that I'm iffy about. One of them I probably shouldn't be iffy about, but it's Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure because I'm not I've never beat any of the Dead Space games. So I'm not sure if that should be maybe I should go into Dead Space now and play that before the new one comes out and see if I'm even into that kind of game.
Or even just like wait for Callisto, see what the reception is around that in terms of
I'm not a person that has
is it something that's going is it something that people are going through relatively quickly and they're enjoying it?
We'll see that. See that's hard because a lot of people be capping sometimes. Oh, this is the greatest game, and I go out and buy it, and I'm like, this is ass.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Let's see. For the rest of this year, so there's those games. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. Need for Speed, I'm also uncertain about. Gotham Knights, I'm uncertain about.
Oh yeah, Gotham Knights. I'm very questionable about that game,
especially after the last kind of trailer I seen today. It was playing some weird music while a woman was like beating up everybody, and the fighting looked fun, but the music playing, it was like really kind of cringe, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I'm a kind of person that's like, it's all about the vibe, right? Like if the vibe throws you off, like if I'm beating somebody up and I'm doing it to like, I don't know, YMCA, that song, I ain't feeling that shit.
It doesn't set the right atmosphere for it, man. It's crazy. It's like you getting jumped in the street and they start playing Justin Bieber. And you're like, what's going on? Like, I thought y'all was
Baby,
supposed to be some hard gangsters, and you guys are
baby.
playing Justin Bieber while getting stomped out in Tim's. That doesn't work out, man.
Yeah, I was cracking up. Salty is Gabe and put down. Oh man, what did he say? I remember he said something about being really disappointed. Oh yeah, he said Batman didn't die for this.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a fact. That's a fact.
That's
You got that.
crazy.
That's a good one. All right, and then the last thing I'm gonna ask you before I have you let everybody know where they can find you is I want you to describe gaming as a whole in just 3 words.
3 words. All
Yes,
right. Here's how I'm going to describe gaming. Exciting. That's the first word. Exciting. Extraordinary. Extravagant. 3 E's.
Oh
There
damn.
you go. The 3 E's. Exciting, extravagant, and extraordinary.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you for setting some time aside to be on the show, brother. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
I will
sir.
definitely be back on Planet Xbox sometime soon to give whoever wants some smoke, because it seems like every time I go on there, somebody got some smoke to
Listen, man, you gotta hop on there and get everyone's energy up.
Absolutely. But yeah, go on ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, bro.
You guys can find me on YouTube and Twitter. DopeIsJay.
Simple as that. All right, cool. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Share this out, and if you enjoy this kind of these kind of interviews and whatnot that I like to do, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I do it every Tuesday and Thursday, and then we do bull sitting with Loke and Cozy Beluga and whoever's our guests on Fridays. Which I'd love to get you on that show, because that show gets wild, and I think you would have a lot to say on it. Very similar, but we're all on camera. Very similar to like playing an Xbox, but we're all on camera and stuff like that. So I'll have to get you set up sometime down the line, maybe like next month or something like that, if you're interested in it and you're not too busy. But once again, I really appreciate you for stopping through, brother. And y'all remember, do the damn thing. Keep it gaming or keep it moving. Peace out, y'all.
That's
Y'all
it.
have a wonderful rest of the day. Deuces.
Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. That's your name. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type, but baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you could play it. Won't you take a chance with me and